Well, hello, and welcome back to another Market Conversations. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that those of you are tuning in and people are popping into the chat, and I'm seeing the counter jump up. That's wonderful. Got a great show lined up for you tonight. A couple of things I wanted to kind of open with before I bring in tonight's guest was I just wanted to share with you some incredible news. One, I'm actually now in the position to acquire the property that I want to acquire. And that's a major milestone for me. Now, will it turn into Paradise de Jerry overnight? No. But just like all of us who are scrimping and saving and putting our nickels together to try to build an investment portfolio that'll take care of us and our, later on, it all takes time. So stick with me along the journey. I intend to document it, whether it be through, iPhone recordings or even buying getting a small affordable drone. I want to put together and document this whole journey of basically scrimping, learning, educating myself, becoming part of a community, and producing something. i.e. my dream. Your dream is going to be different than my dream, but the tools in which we get there are pretty universal, right? So if you're tuning in tonight to talk about XRP, the SEC, and all of that stuff, you have come to the right place, because tonight's guest is Mr. John Deaton. Before I bring him in, a quick shout out to those I see in the chat already. Tyson, great to have you. Simon, Darren, JDO, John, DC Precise, Bill Gould, Ellie Poole. We've even got Heirloom Heritage is in the house. And I can see that there's a lot more of you watching that aren't chiming in the chat. So, and Belinda, thanks for being here. You'll notice there is a scrolling banner at the bottom of the screen. The Raoul Pal interview that I published on the YouTube channel. Raoul picked a number, and I went through and found that comment, and that viewer is going to get a 1-year subscription to Real Vision on me. It's a pay it forward type of thing. I need, though, IKOSRO to reply to the comment. I need your email address so that I can pay for your subscription and get you signed up with Real Vision. So please go to the Raoul Pal interview where you left your comment. I pinned it at the top, and reply, or DM me privately on Twitter through DM. Greatly appreciate that. Okay, folks, let's get into this friggin' show. John Strong's in the house. Patsy Green's in the house. Pete Kelly's in the house. Surf Tech's in the house. Hey, guys. If you're an XRP fan and you know a lot of XRP fans, go to Twitter, tweet this out. We need XRP people in here, because tonight we're going to clear the air. And to do that, I'm bringing in John Deaton. Hey, John.
Hey, Jerry. How's it going?
Dude, well, I mean, you heard me open. I'm on fire.
I can see it.
Right?
Hear it. We hear the energy in your voice. We see it in your face, man. Congratulations.
Dude, 3 years of eating top ramen and sometimes having to walk to the store because I can't, the bus fare was what I had to spend for dinner.
Yep.
I'm thinking that those days are going to, they're going to be behind me, and it'll be a chapter in the book.
Well, you and I were talking about this, briefly before we went live on the air, and I was saying that you're living proof of what entrepreneurship is, what success is, which is, in order to achieve it, and of course, this is for someone who's not born with the silver spoon, right? For the rest of us, the regular folks out there, it has to be a willingness to live a few years like most people won't. For example, walking to the store to save the bus fare, because you have a goal in mind. You have a target that you're going to reach. And so you're willing to make those sacrifices and to live, very frugal, to not purchase the car that everyone else is purchasing because you can't really afford it, right? To live in an apartment that is less expensive because you have, your resources tied up as you may in crypto or investments, trying to earn additional capital through passive income. A willingness to live like that so that later you can live like others can't. You know what I mean? So it's a willingness to live like those that won't so that you can live like those that can.
It's amazing. Let's before we get into the XRP discussion, because I know a lot of people are tuning in for that. One of the things that I find really incredible, like I'm inspired by you. I know you come from humble beginnings. Walk me through what it's like to come out of high school and decide a academic track that is minimum 6 years, minimum internships. That means no money. You're basically working for free till you can get to a place that you can put a shingle on the wall, Johnny Deaton, Esquire, attorney at law. And even then, as you don't start independent, you got to build a client base. So walk me through the sacrifices that you made to do what you really wanted to do, and that was pursue a career in law.
Well, to be honest with you, I do come from very humble beginnings. My a single mother, 6 children, welfare, food stamps, and lived in the inner city of Detroit. And so at first it was graduating high school. I was the first to graduate from high school, let alone college and law school. And so it just, you have to have determination of what you want. I grew up in extreme poverty, and I don't hate people, and I don't hate a lot of things, but I hate poverty. And it's debilitating. It's depressing. When you listen to your mother cry, and fortunately there's always someone else, Jerry, who has it worse. So I don't want to act like I had it worse than anybody else, because it's not true. And thankfully there weren't many nights like this, but there were some nights where my mother just couldn't get it done for that day, and we didn't eat that night. And when you hear your mother cry because she can't feed her children on that particular night, it's a different type of cry. It's a different type of weeping. It burns. And so that was really the motivation. And one of the things that I think is unfortunate in today's society is the class warfare. When I was poor, I didn't hate the rich person. I wanted to know, what did they know? What could they teach me that I could no longer be poor and be able to have a comfortable life? And so the truthful answer is my despise for poverty is what motivated me, and not wanting to live like that. And so after I graduated college, I took a couple years off because I couldn't afford law school, and worked 2-3 jobs, forklift driver, waiter, and police security dispatcher. I had 3 jobs, and I literally did work from, I had worked at a diner from 8 in the morning until 2, sleep from 2 to 4, worked at a Mexican restaurant in Detroit from 5 to 11, and then a 12 p.m. shift as a dispatcher in a security patrol type of outfit. And so saved the money, went to law school. In law school, I ended up going to the security guards and said, hey, listen, I went to Boston and I'm not from there. I said, where do you recommend a guy like me not live? And they were like, well, you definitely got to stay out of Roxbury, Massachusetts. It's a very, rough area. And my answer was, how do you get there? Right? Because, I'm used to that type of environment.
Yeah. So what bus do I take? Is it the number 12?
Exactly. They're like, it's the red line and the T. And so, lived in that situation and gave up realize that it doesn't come overnight. You said something when you're talking about your own situation where you said you got this property, and is it going to turn into Jerry's paradise overnight? No, it takes longer unless you're born into it. It takes longer than you even plan. I thought, well, by the time I'm 35, I hope to be in a financial situation. I wasn't. When I hit 45, I was starting to get into that area. You know what I mean? It took a decade longer than I anticipated. And so I just think it comes down to your desire of what makes you happy. Money doesn't make me happy, but it allows me to provide for the people I love, which does make me happy, and so.
Good point.
But anyways, that's sort of my story. I went into the Marine Corps out of law school because I wanted to get trial experience right away. And I did that. I loved the Marine Corps. My wife at the time got pregnant with our second child. I had student loans. She had student loans. As much as I loved the Marine Corps, they weren't certainly helping me get out of debt. And so I went and worked for a law firm for 4 years, and then saved up some money, and then hung my own shingle, and it took a couple years before you actually start making money. So it just comes down to how bad do you want it? You know what I mean? And if you want it bad enough, you're willing to make those sacrifices.
Well, the advantage that anyone has today that you and I didn't have, we'll say in our youth, was that today information is so accessible. Yeah. You and I didn't have the internet in the 80s. What we had were newspapers, and sometimes you could catch something on an interview on television, but there was no on demand. So you either knew it was coming and you parked your butt in front of the TV on that channel, and Warren Buffett talking about Coca-Cola or whatever.
Right.
The path to that valuable information was filled with many hurdles. A lot of those barriers have been brought down with the internet.
Absolutely.
And that to me is so important for everybody. It does not matter where you are. If you can get an internet connection and a device to engage with it, the access is there. And it's pretty much in every language.
Absolutely. I mean, take quarterly earnings reports of publicly traded companies. How long by the time you or I, back when we were younger, did you get the transcript, right? It would be 7, 8 days, 9 days later. And of course,
and the stock has already moved.
The stock's moved. There's nothing you can do. And that's why buy and hold was sort of the only, for the average investor, was the only kind of approach, because you didn't have access to that information. And so by the time you did get the information, all the action had taken place. And so I call the internet, an internet connection, the great equalizer, for regular people, if they know how to utilize it right.
It really, really is. That was what a great way to open the show. And thank you for that, because I'm sure that you get much of the zeal or energy for your attention is about this XRP SEC case. Yeah. And I do want to touch on that into detail. But before we get there, I want to clear the air, John. All I see on social media is this Ripple case and how valuable and how important people will think a settlement will be. And I'm just flabbergasted. I'm no attorney, got no formal education. Matter of fact, Schoolhouse Rock, the 2-minute, I'm just a bill. That's about the extent of my legal knowledge. But it doesn't make sense for me in my brain to think a settlement has any value whatsoever. It's either you take it all the way and get a judgment, and the judgment becomes precedent in other cases, or Congress makes a law. That's the table I wanted to set for you. You are the expert, Johnny Deaton, Esquire. What do you say, sir?
Well, I think you're right. Right now, if there was a settlement that is sort of in the traditional realm of settlements with the SEC, it would play more in the SEC's advantage than to the individual crypto investor, for sure, because there would be no additional clarity that the market would receive. Basically, a settlement might be good for Ripple if it comes down to, okay, you only have to pay for a fine for these early sales of XRP in 2013 to 2015. Here's a 20 million, 25 million, 100 million, whatever you want to pick number to settle, and we move on. Okay, but what does that mean for Algo? What does that mean for XLM? What does that mean for, any other cryptocurrency? It means nothing. We have no additional guidance. It just means that this particular token paid a fine and we're back to status quo. So the clarity that everyone seeks so desperately in the industry is not going to come from an individual settlement with Ripple. It's not as though the settlement will be the SEC saying, we have settled with Ripple and XRP is not a security and XLM is not a security. They're not going to do that. They're just going to simply say, we got our pound of flesh from Ripple. We won and we're back to business. And I wouldn't be surprised if they turned around and sued a different project like they have and continue to do so. So you're 100% right. There really is only one of two avenues that give us the clarity we seek. And one answer is not the answer anybody wants to hear, which is a verdict and an appeal, and the United States Supreme Court takes the case and issues a new Howey 2.0 Ripple type test. Okay, for that to happen, that means there would be a verdict at some point in, say, the first half of next year, 2022, and then the appeal would probably take 4 to 5 years. So that would put us in 2008, 2009. 2028,
28, 29.
29, what, maybe 2030. That's not going to do anything for XRP holders. That's not going to do anything for Ripple. And so, if that were to play out, then maybe Ripple could continue to do the business and everyone just sort of ignores the SEC, but it's just not a clean way. The only clean way is what you indicated, is for Congress to step in and to say, this is in fact the organization that's going to control these type of tokens. A definition of what is a digital asset security versus what is a digital asset. And I know that a couple different congressmen have offered proposals, but until that happens, we're not going to get the clarity. A settlement may give XRP a blessing, and it can go back to business as usual, and maybe Coinbase will relist it, and maybe it won't. It's possible they wouldn't. It depends, because a settlement is usually an announcement of, we have settled with this individual or this entity, and they are going to pay a fine for these past aggressions. The company doesn't admit liability, the SEC doesn't, and then it just goes on as business as usual.
And that's the thing. So as an XRP holder, I obviously have a bias and a vested interest in clear runways for Ripple or anybody else to use that asset for its utility that it brings to the table, therefore allowing its growth. And with growth, i.e. supply and demand, its valuation should go up. And I keep coming back to a couple of things. This has nothing to do specifically with XRP, but I think if we got the XRP army behind this, that is this. One, stop being tribal. We need to stop being tribal. We need to be pro digital asset innovation.
100%.
Distinctly, and I'm sure you saw this because you're on Twitter just like I am. When the infrastructure bill crypto amendment stuff that everybody was all up in arms about, it was amazing how the community rallied. And I found a tweet that said, if I call this number, it'll give me a script and it will automatically route me if I put in my zip code to my each senator of my state and then the representatives in my district. And I'm thinking to myself, that's wonderful, but it's very reactionary. Why aren't we proactive? Why aren't we as a community, instead of debating the merits of XRP versus XLM or Cardano or Bitcoin or any of that kind of stuff, thinking, you know what? We should pepper our lawmakers, not just in times of, what do they call it? Imminent demise, but as proactively and say, listen, hey, please, I know you're old enough to remember the internet. You guys, whether you were in office or not, you laid a sandbox and a guideline and allowed new technology to flourish. And look what it did for America, right? 4 of the 5 largest companies of the world came out of that. It's only Saudi Aramco as the outlier. You guys need to see this as that. So I don't know who will do that. I would support it. I would talk about it. I would use the phone number. I'm still a U.S. citizen. I'm very much interested in the United States being a part of this innovative future, not, what do they call it, John, when you react quickly without thinking, knee-jerk, knee-jerk action that, our precious financial institutions are threatened by this new technology. Please.
Well, the unity's got to come from within the crypto community. It has to. The problem is, and I keep saying this case, this SEC versus Ripple case, because people have got to understand it's not just SEC versus Ripple, it's SEC versus XRP. The SEC is claiming that today's XRP, the one that you bought from Coinbase, say Uphold or Bitrue yesterday, right? That is also an investment contract with Ripple, aka a security. It's never been argued like that before when a technology's existed retroactively for 7.5 years. It's akin to saying that the oranges were the actual securities back in the Howey case in 1946. But, XRP has been hated on. Some people don't like the executives or the founders because they pre-minded and they wanted to enrich themselves. They got to get past all that. Like I tweeted out today that you need to be rooting, if you're pro-crypto, you need to be rooting against the SEC. That doesn't mean that you're rooting for Ripple. That doesn't mean that you're rooting for XRP, right? You have to be rooting against it. I tweeted out something that hasn't been talked about a lot, Jerry, and that is in 2021 when they passed the National Defense Authorization Act, right? It was a $750 billion defense bill. They actually put in a provision that increased the statute of limitations in an SEC disgorgement case from 5 years to 10 years. Okay, now, and now we have Gary Gensler coming out and making this jurisdictional grab saying that we're going after crypto because a lot of them are securities, according to him. And he's actually asked Elizabeth Warren and Congress for more authority. He wants to actually be granted more authority over cryptocurrencies. And so we have to, a blueprint has already been done. I mean, usually the United States isn't the last one to come to the table, but they could look at how the United Kingdom's done it when the United Kingdom's FCA, Financial Conduct.
Right, they broke it. They listed utility tokens, securities, and commodities.
Right, they basically said, hey, you've got a security token, a digital asset security, and then you have an exchange token, and you have a utility token, and then they can take each project and then put it within those three categories. I mean, you don't have to do it just like that, but that is a framework where you have to say the SEC every single time they come out, just like recently, and say we have settled with this particular company, right? They don't tell you because this exchange, because they were selling securities, but they don't tell you which ones were securities and which ones weren't. And so that's the problem. The government likes to keep it vague, because if it's vague, it gives them more options, right? And so we have to have Congress come in and say, this is the definition of a digital asset security. And this is the definition of a digital asset or digital currency. And that the SEC will govern these digital asset securities, and the Commodities Futures Trade Commission will govern the commodities. But think about the CFTC filed a case against John McAfee before he died over Dogecoin, and that is the CFTC bringing an enforcement action. The CFTC chairperson stated that Bitcoin and Ethereum were commodities. And then we've got the SEC saying that XRP is a security. So Dogecoin is in the commodities world. XRP is in the security world. It's the wild, wild west. And you have all these agencies now trying to make this jurisdictional grab, right, to try to govern it. And so the only clarity that we're going to get that is going to be satisfactory is going to have to come from Congress. And so, and I think this infrastructure bill, it's great. We came together. People put their projects aside. They saw that it was in the best interest. But as you said, we can't wait to react again, because when you react, you're coming into the game when it's already been played, right? So
it's getting that newspaper with the company's quarterlies 8 days after, right, the insiders or the players,
right? And so you can't react when you read the definition of a broker. You have to be part of writing the definition of the broker at the very outset of that bill being drafted. And so the only way to do that is to come together, organize. The money's there. It's a $2 trillion industry. And so they could pool their assets. But, I think that this SEC Ripple case has highlighted the fact that there is not a lot of unity, and that there really is way too much tribalism. You know what I mean?
Right.
XRP, it's a shit coin. Ethereum is better. Bitcoin's better. We don't care what happens to XRP. No, you better care. You better care. Vitalik Buterin better care, because in this SEC Ripple case, the SEC had Hinman sign an affidavit stating to the judge that the SEC has not officially ever taken a position on Ether. And they just extended the statute of limitations to 10 years.
Exactly. Add 5 to 5, baby, you get 10.
And let's see. So if Ether started as the ICO in 2014, and there's a 10-year statute now, that gives them to 2024. So Ethereum should care what happens in this SEC case. You know what I mean? And I own Ethereum, and I own XRP, and I own Bitcoin and a few other things. You know what I mean? So
right.
I'm not anti Ethereum or anything, but the truth is the truth.
Well, I want to take 1 second. I want to welcome again, Dash. Good to have you. Gary had that question about the fair notice defense. Dash Mizzo, Cuera Martinez from Mexico City. Oh, ¿cómo está, mi amigo? Let's see, Digital Asset, Jared, Lori, and Crawford. Nice to have everybody in, of course, Mike Shaw TV and Vapid. Nice to have you in the house today. So, Yadi, oh, that's a friend. That's a personal buddy from a long time ago. Yadi used to be my nickname, or still is my nickname. It's short for you, Daddy. I used to say that I'd hit a home run or catch a touchdown or something. I'd go, who's your daddy?
There you go.
Anyway, John, can you answer that fair notice question? Let's see, where was that? Got it right here.
Well, it's a great question. Is it from Gary? Yeah. It's a great question, and it goes to what you and I, Jerry, were talking about as far as a settlement. When I said that right now a settlement in some ways would play to the SEC's favor, because if the fair notice defense, and Ripple's got a good one, it's got meat, it's got teeth to it, right? I mean, let's just real quick. You're talking about a cryptocurrency that was traded openly and publicly on over 200 exchanges for 7.5 years. They were allowed to purchase 9% of MoneyGram, knowing that they would be using XRP, and the XRP would be traded thereafter by MoneyGram in the secondary market. You had financial companies filing disclosures with the SEC saying that the only 3 cryptocurrencies that they'll be allowed to trade are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, because those are considered not securities. You have the FinCEN settlement in 2015 where it was declared virtual currency, right? So there's a lot to be said that a reasonable person would not have been put on notice that XRP was considered a security. And so if Ripple wins that case, it is devastating to the SEC moving forward, because, you know, Library, who they've sued since Ripple, that case is pending, and any other cryptocurrency thereafter is going to be able to then use that fair notice defense and decision against the SEC. And so it's a great question, and I believe if when the judge, what the SEC's done is they've moved to strike that defense. They've asked the judge to strike it so that Ripple can't even argue it. Now, I assume that the judge is going to deny that motion to strike because it's rarely given. And once that's done and discovery's over and the SEC really evaluates the case and they see Gary Gensler and others, I mean, Gary Gensler just bragged and said, we've never lost the case. So if they fear that notice, fair notice defense, like they should, then they may be the ones coming to the table asking for a settlement. You know what I mean?
And I could see that. But again, here's the thing. I remember this so distinctly. Ripple was given an opportunity to settle before that case got filed. And Ripple said, no, we didn't do anything wrong. We've got a little money in the treasury. We'll go ahead and fight you. And I was like, yes, excellent, good job. Garlinghouse comes out in a tweet. Yes, we're going to defend Ripple, but in essence, we are defending all of crypto. All right?
Yeah.
That's history. That's a fact. It happened. It was stated. Now, here's the thing. If Ripple settles, they get nothing. They get nothing. There's no scenario where settling benefits Ripple, because everything they have been doing during this case has been outside the U.S., right?
That's right.
Settling does not open up the U.S. for them.
No, I think that they need, and it's one of the reasons why we have our motion, the motion to intervene, because we want the judge, you know, if we were allowed to enter the case for amicus standing or whatever, then basically I would immediately start working on filing a brief that's called a declaratory judgment, where all I'd be saying is to the judge is, look, judge, they can fight with Ripple about specific transactions in 2015 or whatever, but XRP itself, the token as it exists today, it needs to be declared as a matter of law that it's not a security. And unless there's that kind of clarity, why would an exchange relist it, right? If it's
or not relist it,
not realistic, meaning like if there's just a settlement and it says, okay, Ripple, you pay $50 million and we move on, and there's nothing said, does that does Coinbase have the confidence to say, okay, well, we're gonna relist XRP because we're convinced that the SEC won't come after us saying XRP is a security? There's got to be some kind of green light as it relates to the digital asset itself. So I agree with you 100% on what.
Well, I'm about to bring in a friend of the show, Mr. Bill Bean, who's going to have a couple of questions, but I need to make sure he's got his camera on and stuff. So Bill, I see you backstage. Make sure I see you. You got your camera turned on, your mic turned on, all those kind of things. John, I wanted to ask you this because I don't know. I mean, this is a legitimate question I don't have an answer to. How often is case law, i.e. the establishment of a precedent, how often does that influence new bills that will become law?
Well, you're talking about decisions in the court, or you're talking about
correct?
Okay.
A judge says, boom, ruling.
Absolutely.
Now what's happened, once that ruling happens, other cases now have a case to go to for precedent.
Right.
And how often do bills get crafted from case law that go into the legislative branch and become law based off of cases?
Well, they have a huge impact. Sometimes it can actually be the opposite. For example, when I told you about the 10-year statute of limitations being increased, that's because the Supreme Court had come down and they had stated that the SEC was limited to a 5-year statute of limitations, right? And so Congress sometimes will react opposite of that precedent because because the Supreme Court says, well, absent clear language, this is our interpretation. So sometimes a bill will then try to be more clarified based on what that precedent. In the digital asset space, certainly if, for example, the Telegram case came down and said, the judge said that the gram itself is not a security. And he even said that the purchase agreement between the investors and Telegram, that contract wasn't a security. It's the whole scheme and totality of the way it was packaged and marketed and sold, but made clear that the gram itself is just, quote, an alphanumeric code. It's software code, and therefore can't be classified itself as a security. And the SEC is ignoring that precedent, right? And they're claiming
they ignored FinCEN. They ignore anybody that they want to ignore if it serves their agenda.
Right. So if Judge Torres would hopefully play out is Judge Torres would look to that Telegram decision and then basically say the same thing applies to XRP. And then those two decisions making it so clear, Congress would enact and say, and then codify digital assets in and of themselves are commodities. They can be sold and packaged and marketed as a security in certain scenarios, but the asset itself is not a security. And so that's how that could play out, is exactly what you're talking about.
Right on. Well, John, I think you'll remember last time I had you on the show, at the end of the show, I brought in Bitta Avenue, and Bitta's a contributor, comes in at the end of the show, great questions, this, that, and the other thing. Bitta's under the weather tonight. So I got a buddy of mine, another friend of the show, Mr. Bill Bean, is going to step in. I love this guy. I just adore him. He's like the older brother that I never had. And So, Bill, thank you for taking the time to join John and I tonight. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's great to be here. And John, I just have been wanting for a long while to look you face to face in the eyes and say thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. I have to tell you, XRP holders, it's just been overwhelming. They've been so supportive, and it's invigorating. When you see that people, anything you're doing, is appreciated or it impacts other people. It's more motivation. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So Billy,
yeah.
did you put together any questions or have anything that you'd like to comment on or contribute?
Yeah, I did have some, and I think the first one certainly is germane. In light of John taking on now more than 30,000 people who were impacted by the 12/22/2020 action of the SEC. And my question is, what's your sense of the impact that our voice has had on this case in the short term, and the long-term lessons that could be learned by both the SEC and U.S. investors?
Well, to the first, I think that the court has already, basically in written rulings, has actually discussed the public interest, right? There's been a decision, and Judge Netburn, who's the magistrate judge, stated, in light of the great public interest that this case has, the fact that I can tell you that the federal court rarely, when they do a conference call, rarely do they need more than 500 lines, right? People are not that interested. When you increase it from 500 to 4,000 and you still are shutting people out, right? Then that in and of itself makes a huge statement. The fact that 19,000 people have actually joined into the motion to intervene, and then there's 30,000 people who've signed petitions. It's making an impact. There's no doubt about it, and so I think that it goes to show everyone that you have two choices. When you see injustice, you either sit back and you watch it, and you complain about it, or you do something about it. You know what I mean? And doing something about it could be making the phone call to your congressman or your senator, or it could be signing the petition, or it could be, helping file a motion to intervene. And a lot of people will say, well, it'll probably get denied, or, this happens or that happens. Okay, so what? What's the other option? Do nothing? And so as far as the second question, Bill, I think that the SEC needs to basically do a cleansing of itself, if you will. There's this revolving door, and it's become so blatant now. I mean, listen, we just found out today that one of the lead attorneys for the SEC in the Ripple case, Dugan Bliss, who argued along with Jorge Tenreiro, he was like the co-lead counsel. He left the case and he just went to BlockFi, and that's fine. I hold nothing against this guy personally. Like, he should be able to make a living and whatnot, but the SEC hasn't taken any action against BlockFi, even though states have. And I'm not saying they should, but when you see Bill Hinman making $15 million and then gratuitously, for no reason, just gratuitously says, hey, it's my personal opinion, but Ether today, as in 2018, it's no longer a security, in my opinion, and your law firm is part of the Ethereum Alliance Foundation, right?
And he was a standing employee of the SEC at that time.
At that time, when you have the SEC saying in October of 2020, less than 60 days before they filed the lawsuit, stating publicly that there's been no determination about XRP. And then Jay Clayton on his last day directs the filing of the case and then leaves the SEC the next day. And less than 90 days later, he's with One River, who put $1 billion 2 months before the lawsuit into Bitcoin Ethereum. So there just needs to be, they need to look at it and say, we have to cleanse our reputation, because the SEC's reputation, not just in the XRP community, everywhere, it is in the gutter, if you will. There's no confidence. And I honestly think that they've lost sight of who they are supposed to protect.
Right.
Let's take this case, Bill. 19,000 people are knocking on the door saying, we want to be heard. That's all. We want to be heard. We want to add a brief or something to it. And they object. And not only do that, but they attack their attorney, me. And then they also complain about the XRP holders. But we're the ones that they allegedly filed the case for. So, like, have some kind of empathy towards the people that you're supposed to be protecting. And I think that if Gary Gensler, if he would do anything, objectively look at that, right? And say, whether anyone believes that Jay Clayton or Hinman were on the take, or whether there was actual, impropriety, my God, the appearance of impropriety can rise so high that the mere appearance can become impropriety, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. And a follow on that, what is your sense now of the chance that Clayton, Hinman, and others, if needed, are brought to bear either in the criminal court or the civil court for what they have done?
Well, on the criminal court, it's going to require somebody, and it can only be someone in the government. And so it's not going to be Gary Gensler, but it would be someone like Gary Gensler saying, listen, I want the inspector general to do an investigation. Okay. And if it's not him, then it would need to be someone, like a Senator Elizabeth Warren, or someone on the banking committees in Congress or the Senate that actually asked for an independent investigation into it. If one of those two things doesn't happen, then the only other option to holding them accountable would be a civil suit. And then in a civil suit, of course, they're going to have what's called qualified immunity, sort of like a police officer. If they wrongfully arrest you, let's say a police officer doesn't have probable cause and they arrest you because of whatever reason, and you sue the police officer and the police department, the police officer, because he was acting in the scope of his duties, is usually immune from prosecution. Then there's an exception to it, which is a gross abuse of discretion or some kind of criminality. So if there was a civil lawsuit of, let's say, XRP holders versus the SEC, Bill Hinman and Jay Clayton, we would have to be able, there would be an immediate motion by them to be dismissed from the case because of their immunity. We would have to have some kind of smoking gun to show more than just the appearance, right? We'd have to have something, and maybe something will come out in discovery or something gets leaked that would give us that ability. But
the Hinman tape, that recording in the bathroom at Spago's between him.
Well, I mean, look at how some people are surprised that Ripple was able to get the Hinman deposition. Look at how that got fought. Like that, to me and to you guys, that's a no-brainer, right? Hinman, it's a big case. He can sit for a 7-hour deposition in federal court and answer questions, especially if it's his personal opinion. Who'd you talk to?
That's a big deal,
right?
That was a big deal.
Huge deal. And that's why it's being sealed, right? That's why, and they're going back to the judge because the SEC is claiming that basically anyone he talked to at the SEC, it's part of the deliberative process, right? It's privileged. Of course, my question is, if it's his personal opinion, then there is no deliberative process, right?
Exactly.
Right? You deliberate, and then you render a decision if it's official. If it's unofficial and only his personal opinion, then there should be no privilege. So
exactly. I mean, does he get privilege if he liked the New York Giants over the New York Jets in that Sunday, September 7th showdown in the Meadowlands?
Well, the SEC says so.
Yeah, BS. Hey, Jordan, a new contributor to the channel. I've never seen Jordan in before. Question to John: why the CFTC did not intervene in the XRP versus SEC, and can they at any time now?
Good question.
Great question. Well, I would say that one commissioner, I wish I knew his name. He tweeted out after Gary Gensler's letter to Elizabeth Warren was publicized, where he said they need more power and they're going to go after it. One of the CFTC commissioners said, tweeted, "Let's get something straight." Not in these words, but I'm paraphrasing. Let's get something straight. You've got no jurisdiction over commodities, right? Now, so there is joining or intervening the case in the court of public opinion, which I think is happening. But in the Biden administration, or if it was the Trump administration, it doesn't matter. For one agency to sort of like sue the other agency, it's just something that normally is never going to happen.
Professional courtesy,
right? And so basically, that's going to play out publicly, right? And so we need the CFTC. Well, listen, Hester Peirce is coming out, guns blazing as a sitting commissioner of the SEC, publicly stating that the SEC is wrong in its approach. That is huge. That is
her and her partner, and there's one of the other five.
Elad Roisman and Hester Peirce are the ones that are publicly saying that there is no clarity, and the SEC continues to give no clarity, and that's bad. So
let me jump in here. Hey, Billy, do you have anything else, or can we transition?
Just a real quick, I think, based on everything, is there any plausible scenario in which those hurt by the December 22nd action are remunerated, or is that just la land?
No, well, the one of the things that the action that I originally filed requested was, one, if there is a settlement with Ripple, whether they pay $1 or 100 million or 1 billion, that it does not go to the big black hole of the U.S. Treasury, that it would be for XRP holders who were hurt, right? And so that all the money goes into some kind of fund, and then you have an administrator who designates who gets paid out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that would be one option. And then the second option is a class action suit against the SEC. Again, you have the immunity issues, but if we can prove that there's such a gross abuse of discretion, and that there may have even been personal gain motivation, or other things, then it's possible. So my answer to your question is, most of the people are not going to ever be made whole. That's fair to say. But there could be some small semblance of being made whole, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I do.
If there's a settlement, and that doesn't mean just because we might. It's a uphill battle. The class action against the SEC is an uphill battle, but that doesn't mean it's not a battle worth fighting. You know what I mean? And
yes.
And maybe if we learn something from the Hinman, I almost said the Hinman tapes, because now I got the bad tape in my head. Right? I'm gonna make a mistake.
October 13th.
Yeah, there could be look at all of this, Bill, all of this discovery that the SEC is claiming privilege. They're claiming privilege on everything to do with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. Now, how is it possible that every document you have is privileged?
Right.
Right. So that makes me think that there might be some smoking gun documents, you know what I mean, that are in there, which could make me much more optimistic in answering your question more favorably to XRP holders.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One last thing, Jerry.
Oh.
John, when you had mentioned that this cause had reinvigorated you in your legal practice, I want you to know that I smiled broadly and I was so happy for you. This is a fight worth fighting, and we're so glad to have you as our champion. Thank you.
Well, no, I appreciate it. I do, and it really has, because just like anything else in life, every job and being a self-employed, it has its pros and it has its cons, and I was dealing with lawyers all the time, and at some point you're always fighting over money and settlements and the business side of it, and you're dealing with attorneys all the time. So I was a bit in the burnt out factor. And then when I filed the case, I was like, okay, now so many people are going to probably call me an ambulance chaser or do this or do that, get ready for, and then it was the opposite. It was everyone like appreciative of what I was doing. And, it just motivates you. And it motivated me. So people like you, Bill and Jerry, it's you're people worth fighting for.
I appreciate
man,
that. Thank you.
That's
and
so
you
sweet.
Also have a new supporter. My dog came alongside me just to further validate. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, John, this one, I'm going to ask for like a yes or no, or if it needs elaboration, make it short. This is a question from Jordan. Can we as an XRP community members, through you, John, officially approach the CFTC to intervene?
We can request it. Chances are it would be denied, but we can certainly request it.
Well, there you go, Jordan. If you want to create a fund to do that, here's your attorney right here, Johnny Deaton Esquire.
A petition, we could petition just like we did the 30,000 petition to Gensler. It could be a petition for the SEC to basically assert jurisdiction. That would be sort of our claim, right?
Well, I'm curious. Okay, let's dive into that just for a second, because I don't see the FTC having any jurisdiction here. That's just, I don't know nothing from nothing, dude. But it is very clear that FinCEN, which is the regulatory enforcement arm of the U.S. Treasury, has already defined XRP as a virtual currency. What would it take to get them to intervene and say, hey, what do we chop liver over here? We've made a ruling. Here it is.
Well, again,
as opposed to the CFTC or some other body who's like, what XRP is not a.
Well, this is the problem, Jerry, with when you have too many chefs in the kitchen, right? And you have too many intra-agencies. When you look at the settlement agreement with FinCEN, the Department of Justice, and Ripple, there's this one sentence in it, and it states that that Ripple must comply with the Bank Secrecy Act and register with FinCEN, and this agreement does not supersede any other U.S. agency. There's like this one little catch-all sentence, right?
In other words, we can enforce this, but you're still fair game for anything out there that anybody may interpret.
Right.
Another case for Congress. Get off your fat old asses. Here, I'm going to go on a rant here. Stay with me, folks. If you are paying taxes in the United States and you're not on the phone and in these people's emails, I'm talking about your senators and your congressmen, don't come on my show bitching and moaning. Oh, they're corrupt. Of course. It's a game. Wealth and money have attracted corruption from day one. It's not new. Wake up, snap out of the dream, folks. But what I will tell you is these people will look after their own best interests. And if they want to be a career politician, that means they got to get reelected. You've got a voice with you got a voice, you got a phone. Use it. You got dollars. Put it behind the candidates that stand for what you want. So I'm going to open a new segment on the show tonight. You guys are going to get to go on the maiden voyage with me. For a long time, a very famous comedian named Jeff Foxworthy did this, had his whole persona was built off of his "you might be a redneck" jokes, right? Here's an example. If you mow your front lawn and you find a car, you might be a redneck. Okay, great. I love it. Let's now bring it to Congress. And instead of redneck, out of touch. I've got one for you. How about this? If you grew up in a house where you walked down to Roger Wilco to watch Lawrence Welk on the black and white TV in the window on Sunday nights, you might be out of touch. We need to get people making our laws who are in touch. And as far as I remember, we have that power. But you have to get involved. You can't defer responsibility for your future to other people. So go vote. Learn about candidates. Oh, but I don't have any time. I know it's hard to break away from the reruns of Seinfeld and Friends. But if you want something different, you have to do something about it. America is still a great democracy. As last as I remember. Did something change, John?
Listen, I love my country. You know, I'm not a fan of the leaders in my country, but it's still the best around, at least for now. You know what I mean? I have to admit that I'm not as positive as I used to be. You know. Because of things like, you know, what we're experiencing right now, and everything's been so tribal. I mean, you know, if you vote for someone, then, you know, brothers don't talk to each other or sisters because one voted for Donald Trump and one can't understand why. Or if you're vaccinated versus unvaccinated, now that's a division line.
Everything is so polarized.
It's so polarized, and we're so divided as a country. But we have leaders who they're not going to do the right thing for the right thing, but so they got to do it for what Jerry's talking about their own self interest. If they want to stay in power,
how do we align our incentives?
Right.
Right. At the end of the day, that's the game.
That's what you have.
And if you think it isn't, wake up, because it is.
No, listen, and I think it shows it's rewarding. Listen, when I read the complaint on December 22nd or 23rd, I can't remember. I think it was the 23rd when I read the SEC Ripple complaint. I was sitting down, you know, obviously it's on the eve of Christmas. I read it. And when I read that it said basically today's XRP was a security, like I knew what was going to happen. Like I know there's going to be delistings. I'm surprised that a couple of them kept trading it, like Uphold and Bitrue. And so it was either just sit around and bitch and moan, right?
Right.
I told my girlfriend who I live with, I said, I think I'm going to sue the SEC. And she said, what? I said, yeah. And that night I started writing the complaint. And on January 1st, I filed the writ of mandamus. And it's been one of the most rewarding things I've done because of the amount of people that is supportive of it. And so.
Do you think you would have done exactly the same thing based on a principle if you had zero XRP in your personal holdings?
Yes, because of the fact that, I mean, obviously I because of the impact on the global technology and cryptocurrency and digital assets. Yes, because from the beginning, I saw this as an attack on digital assets, not just about XRP. So I think so. The reality is, and the SEC took shots at me saying, oh, he just, or other people, the few critics that are out there, oh, he's just disgruntled because he picked the wrong asset. I've never lost money on XRP. Like, to be honest with you, you know what I mean? I'm fortunate that
you can't lose if you don't sell.
And so that's a good point. And so, but the point being is that when you do get involved, I saw someone write in that, I've never been really interested or involved in politics. Well, here's your opportunity. You know what I mean? And you'll be surprised sometimes of what that effort, the kind of reward that effort will bring, especially if you think you helped, you're a part of something, you know what I mean? And so being a part of this fight against what I believe is just outrageous government overreach, you know what I mean? And that's what's happening. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
It's just outrageous. I still don't believe that as a lawyer, you have to have good faith, this thing called good faith to make an argument. I don't see how an SEC attorney can stand up as an officer of the court and say that the XRP in Jerry's account wallet that he bought off Coinbase or any other exchange in the secondary market, not from Ripple in 2018 or 2019, that is an unregistered security. I don't think that they can do it. Like they shouldn't be able to. The law's against them. The facts are against them. And so, unfortunately, I think that the lawsuit might have been the weapon. That might have been not the means to the end, but the lawsuit might have been the end. Like that was the end result, and using it as a weapon. That's my fear.
Right on. So Bill threw out a thing. Hey, if Ripple XRP became a movie, who would play John? I'll tell you, I'd like to vote. I'd like to put my I'd like to see Bryan Cranston play John. If that ever happened.
I was at the mall. When Breaking Bad was on TV, and I had like a hat on, and there was a fella. He was an Asian fella. He thought that I was Bryan Cranston, right? He didn't speak English, but he came up with his camera, and I'm like, I'm not him. But he just kept saying, "Will I take the picture?" And I'm like, okay, I put my arm around.
Right on.
He thinks he took a picture with Heisenberg.
I'll tell you what. I want to close the show out before we get to final thoughts. I want to close the show out with this, and that is, what are both of you two fine gentlemen studying now, currently, one facet of whatever market, it doesn't matter, or whatever track of learning that will make you a better investor tomorrow by learning it today?
Well, for me, it is what you, Jerry, I think, and last time I told you I wanted to reach out and talk to you, but for me, it is trying to use these crypto assets. How can I best earn passive income without losing too much security? You know what I mean? With not your wallet, not your keys. I mean, what's the best approach? Is it a BlockFi? Is it some other outfit where I can loan my XRP or my algo or whatever I have, my Bitcoin, and they're going to pay me 4%, 5%, whatever. I still have not taken that step. And I'm still trying to figure out what's the best.
You, my friend, unlike the audience, you have my direct phone number.
Yes. So
and one of the beautiful things, and I'll just answer it because hopefully other people are thinking along the lines you are, right?
Yep.
One of the incredible things that's going on, John, that wasn't here when I got here, but has since come on. So we do have companies who are built, beautiful companies, Celcius, Nexo, your BlockFi's, Abra. Yep. Okay. But they present a platform risk. Well, this last 18 months, we've seen protocols have built-in treasury functions that provide rewards for securing the network. You could go down the line. Cardano, Polkadot, Algo, boom, 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 boom. all of which you can have your, like, for instance, you can stake Polkadot from your ledger. You've got the keys. It's your ledger, 10%. You can have a Daedalus wallet, Cardano, 5.3%. Algo, your own Algo wallet. And that's the name of the website. I think it's myalgowallet.io or something like that. Stake it right inside of there. The beautiful thing about these quote unquote protocols where your tokens are being delegated to secure the system and you're being rewarded, if you're doing it from within the protocol's own function, not a third party, there's no 1099, there's no reporting, there's no nothing, and you own the private keys. What time do I schedule you in tomorrow, John? I mean, we're going to have to go over some stuff.
No, listen, I'll be honest with you. My initial reaction just now to you, Jerry, was, what's the catch, right?
There's no catch.
No, I mean, it's like why you just said, what time can I pencil you in? It's because that just sounds amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. So I had the good fortune of having this interview with Raoul Pal. And if any of you don't know who he is, then it doesn't mean anything. But if you do, go to the channel, check it out. These monetary networks are bringing back a very traditional method because most people are risk adverse. Most people are. When was the last time you could get interest from a bond? 8, 9, 10 years ago, 2%, 3%. But those days are gone. How about just in a good old fashioned savings account? It's been years since that. You can now get literally, and this is when you own the private keys to your wallet, risk-free yield. The only risk is if the protocol goes to zero.
Right. Which is the risk you already have.
You've already taken that risk. Exactly. Well, look at the risk of holding US dollars. Yeah. If you don't think currency debasement is real and purchasing power degradement is not happening, then get out from underneath, get out of the bomb shelter, come back up.
Go look at what a used car costs right now.
Oh my God. How about a house?
A house.
What if I wanted to move near John Deaton?
Oh,
I'd have to have my portfolio have to go up by 10. I guess I have to settle for a paradise in Costa Rica.
No, it's and you're starting to see it with eggs, milk, bread. It's all
everything.
Transitory.
Guys in the U.S.
What's the definition of transitory? Is the definition of the Fed transitory a decade?
Yeah, right.
A generation?
Right.
Yeah.
Because the rest of my life.
So check this out. The U.S., the largest consumer on the planet, 350 million population, largest consumer on the planet. Shipping containers in the last 24 months have gone from an average of 3,500 to ship a container, but 40-foot container is now 20,000.
Wow.
Do you think that's not going to have an effect on everything that's imported here?
Yeah.
And that's just one piece of the supply chain inflation. Yeah. So anyway, John, great question. Bill, what are you learning about? What's making you a better investor?
Well, it's very interesting that what John said is something that I'm also tackling and that you are also. And that is there a model where everything can be choreographed together? What I mean by that is you have staking that will give you a certain amount of passive income. We need a strategy for the long term such that when I stop earning regular wages, I can be receiving benefit from the cumulative effect of those passive income flows. And I really like the idea. See, for example, give an example. Let's just say you use your holdings as collateral to get funds, everything from buying a house to buying more crypto, whatever it might be. You can offset the interest incurred by pulling that collateral and the inflows from staking your various cryptos. My point is simple. It all can be tied together into a system so that you're optimizing your future track.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've done that, right? I was doing that. That's how I amassed the port. I don't have an income. I have no money. So I had to learn. I had to get tricky a few times. And yes, I leveraged my entire portfolio to get more money to buy more assets. Yes, I did. Yep. But what I will tell you is that there are math formulas. And if for any of you that are out there listening, if you never use more than 10% of your portfolio, chances are you'll never get liquidated, and chances are you'll always produce more income on the collateral that you are earning interest on than the interest that you owe on the loan and the lack of collateral interest earned on the stuff that needs to collateralize that loan. Simply stated, always earn more in interest than the interest you pay for any loans, and you will be fine. But that's a tricky formula in a volatile market that can slam down. We've just come on, we just lived through it again. I have people that are my friends that I've taught this method to that got liquidated because you know what they did is they borrowed money against their portfolio and they took it out of the market and they did something else with it. Yeah. You can't do that. You got to buy the asset and put it back on the platform because you got to earn enough interest to overtake the interest that you owe on your loan so that you're constantly compounding more alike kind assets in your principal so that your principal grows. That's the whole deal about being an investor, right? Yeah. So it's all about ratios. Just because somebody will offer you 50% loan to value doesn't mean you should take it. It's not wise. It's not smart. Right. But there are methods. I mean, my Patreon club, they all have a spreadsheet with multiple facets on it so that they can project out while they're thinking about these things, how much of this to use for this so that they'll pay this and how much will it generate and what are the ratios and what are the timelines, like what are the repayment timelines and options and da-da-da-da-da. I designed it. It works beautifully and it's kept me out of trouble. But I do know people that have misused the concept because they think, oh, Jerry said he borrowed against his portfolio, took a loan, right? And he didn't get no, I didn't get liquidated because I never had more than 20% exposure on the leverage.
See, but you were also willing to, when you had downturns, to walk and not spend the money on the bus.
Exactly.
And
it's all about, are we willing to delay gratification?
You didn't make emotional decisions, and you take it out of it. It's like some of the people that say, I'm never going to sell. I'm never going to sell. There's nothing
bullshit.
There's nothing wrong with taking a profit.
Nobody ever got poor taking profits.
I mean, right. There's nothing wrong with taking a profit. And if Bitcoin gets 100,000, I'll take a little profit.
John, you'd be surprised. You look down my portfolio. I've got at least 10 assets in my portfolio that I have scooped off not only my original investment a long time ago, but big chunks of profit. Yeah. And it's still just sitting there earning yield, more XTC, more VET, more this, more that. And I got my profit out of those a long time ago. Yeah. A long time ago.
Yeah, me too.
One thing, one challenge I'll share with you what one of my biggest challenges are right now, coming from, say, the equities world to the crypto world. I learned as an equity investor to be more of a highly concentrated portfolio, right? I would own more of Amazon or more of Apple and then having 15 stocks. I would have 5 and I just have more of those. And then I had the mentality of, if I'm not willing to buy more of that stock, then maybe I should sell it, right? Like maybe it's time to pick another one. So I was very good at being able to have 3 to 5. I'm having a tougher challenge with the crypto market. It even only trying to get 10. Like I think I have like 15 that I own, and the question is, can you take that concentrated kind of mentality portfolio and apply it, to the crypto and say, okay, I'm just going to be more of Bitcoin, more of ETH, and more of something else? Or is it because there's so many? Is it and it's a nascent class? Is it okay to be? Well, I'm going to own 15 different.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, knowing you kind of had the answer, right? So in the equities market, you saw very distinct market winners. The market said these are best in class of whatever. Amazon, the digital retailer, right? The online retailer, and whatever else Apple or whoever else. Those are dominant market leaders. No question. There's no question. Why would you ever want to sell a winner to buy a loser? Why would you ever go buy GE stock?
Right.
The biggest difference between the equity world and the crypto world is all those equity worlds, the only thing you had going for you was the capital appreciation of the underlying asset. Apple doesn't pay dividends. Oh, well, they do, but I mean, it's
right.
1.37% annual. I mean, it's nothing. Amazon hasn't paid a dividend ever.
Nope.
All right. So Facebook doesn't pay, you know what I mean? So there is no compounding more of that asset without you putting more money in it.
Right.
Okay. In the digital space, you can take a $200 bet on Algo today, put it in an Algo wallet, and have it compound its staking rewards.
Right.
Come back in 5 years, and then you have a poop ton more Algo without one extra of your dollars going into it.
Right.
So you could spread out some stuff, but also back to the analogy of equities and crypto. How many bona fide, absolute superstar winners are in crypto? There's none. There's one. It's called Bitcoin.
Right.
Everything else, I mean, you could make a play for Ethereum, 200 billion market cap, possibly. But Ethereum could be also Yahoo.
And
Look at what Yahoo did in the beginning. It grew. It was the dominant browser community thing. And then Google came around and kicked its ass because it made shitty decisions by buying Mark Cuban companies and blah, 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 blah. Look at where Yahoo is now.
Right.
There's Bitcoin and crypto, and then everything else is some degree of a lottery ticket.
I agree.
Hey, Jer, I got to run, but I've really enjoyed it.
Hey,
Hope
Bill,
to see you again, John.
You're the best,
pleasure.
Billy.
Yeah.
Love you, brother. So yeah, that's, the thing. There are comparisons, and then it's night and day. Like for instance, when you're in the equity market, right, and you're trying to establish valuation, and you're looking at revenues and cash flows and expenditures and how much debt service do they have, and these things that make up value, they're very difficult to try to take the same metrics that would give you valuation in the equities market and apply them into crypto, because cryptos are monetary networks.
Yeah.
We've never had in the history monetary networks. The closest metrics that we have to analyze these things are things like Metcalfe's law, Jervin's paradox. Well, are they really analytical tools, or are they just kind of frameworks and we have to try to create them and build them? It's tough. What comparisons do we have? Okay, well, we have the Amazons and the Facebooks and the Googles. They're companies that were built on open source protocol. We call it the internet. But what they did is they did create networks of users, but the users got functionality and utility, but no financial upside. Only the equity holders or that capital stack made the money, right? Did you make $1 off of Facebook growing to 3.5 users?
No.
Neither did I. But I got to talk to my Aunt Shirley and high school friends. So I am a user.
Right.
In crypto, if you hold the token and it's part of the economics of the protocol, and it is a network that grows and gets network adoption, then there's a financial incentive for me to not only be a user, but to remain an investor.
Right. Because
I get capital appreciation. So, yeah, you got my phone number, John. Call me anytime.
I
If you want to go over a strategy session.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch your interview with Raul too, because he's someone that I just I live off every word he says, to be honest.
I love Raul. Raul, there's some voices that resonate with me. Michael Saylor resonates with me. Yeah. Raul Powell resonates with me. Nick Black, a small little YouTuber buddy of mine, resonates with me. There are some people that I listen to when they speak.
No, absolutely. He's one of them for sure. And he's one right off the bat that rejected the tribalism.
Exactly. Exactly.
I do have your number, and I definitely wanna pick your brain off camera. You know what I mean?
I told you I'm your dude. I like you.
I appreciate. I like you too, brother.
You know, anybody that is willing to come on camera and say, I'm bringing sexy back to baldness is okay with me.
All right.
So, folks, on behalf of John and I, and of course, Bill Bean. Oh, wait, we can't end the show. Brady, I've got a diligent producer in the background hitting all the little buttons and doing all the little things. Brady, what's your final thought tonight, bro? I'm sorry, I just got completely sidetracked.
What's up, Brady?
Hey, how are you?
All
final. Let me think.
That's funny, Bill. Okay, I'm sorry, Brady.
Sorry.
Stage is all yours, bro.
Fans on. Final thought. I'm not even sure. Hold on. Let me just give me 2 seconds. I need to refresh my. All right. I think we need to give each other homework. Not like a first grade, second grade type thing, but like, try and help. Like, we all know what we should do and shouldn't do. And I think sometimes when we're on our Twitter feeds and whatever social media means we use, you have to remember that you're part of not just a larger group of individuals, but you're part of something that's never happened before and will probably be a lot better recorded than the oncoming, internet wave, because there was no way to record the recording device, but now that we have the internet and all this live streaming and everything, people are going to come back and try and figure out what we were thinking. So hopefully we're on our best behavior, whether we're online or in real life, but not easy to do, but it definitely will be handsomely rewarded to those who can. And that's my final thought.
Right on. Well, folks, on behalf of Brady, my guest John Deaton, and our contributor Bill Bean, till next time, Pura Vida.